What's up? When you're recording bass, don't be afraid to record the full frequency of the instrument. You don't need to kill the sound with the tone knob, because a tone knob on a passive bass is only going to subtract from the natural sound of the instrument, the sound that's coming out of the pickup. More often than not, I like to record bass very flat, pretty flat on the amp, totally flat on the bass, and get as much high frequency into the recording as I can because we want to hear it in the mix. It's actually very hard to get a bass to speak if it's only bass. If it's only the fundamental frequencies, if you roll off all of the treble, whatever that means, I find myself adding a lot of distortion to the bass to get some higher harmonics back so that you can hear it, especially on small speakers and speaking through the guitars, the keys, the other elements of the mix. That works much better if you haven't already removed harmonics from the original signal. I remember when I first started playing the bass, I had this little crate 10-inch speaker combo amp. It was probably 10 watts. And I would EQ out all of the mids and the highs, and I would crank the bass knob all the way up. But it's a 10-inch speaker and a 10-watt amp. You really are not left with a lot. So I was blowing the speaker all the time. A 10-inch speaker just can't handle frequencies like that. The wavelengths are too long. Not up against a drummer and a three-piece band. Anyway, I guess my point is I couldn't hear the bass. Nobody could hear the bass because there was no tone to it. And when you have an electric guitar practice amp with a 10-inch speaker, you get a whole lot more energy out of the speaker cone because the frequencies of a guitar are just higher. They're easier to reproduce. Translates the same way to your earbuds, your laptop speakers, your consumer speakers, bookshelf speakers, that kind of thing. I know you're not expecting, you're probably not expecting anybody to hear bass over their phone speaker, but it is possible. One of the things that earbuds do is they're incredibly small speaker drivers, but they use harmonics to create the impression that they're producing a frequency a lot lower than what they're actually capable of producing. They're also inside your ear, so it takes very little energy. But just think about that. If you really want to feel the bass, if you really want to feel the rumble, you need higher harmonics as well. And I know a lot of bass players just want a deep, round tone, but coming from a fellow bass player, I urge you not to squash those highs, at least not for a recording. Do what you want at your live shows. You can have 18-inch subwoofers in your 8x10 Ampeg cab, whatever. But when you're recording, trust the sound of that instrument and get the whole thing.